Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kwang Jong, and today I'm very glad to introduce you like our new Joule Thomson Expansion. So it was built for like studying hydrate formation in the interesting behavior like JT cooling effect on the flow line. So briefly about me, I studied mechanical engineering during my undergraduate, and before I joined this group, I worked as a research assistant, like on hydrate formation for desalination process. So after I joined this group as a PhD student, I worked with the Raman spectroscopy on the surfactant and gaseous option, and also some hydrate characterization with that. And also some of you maybe remember some like a popcorn hydrate, which was like contactless hydrate nucleation. And currently, as a research associate, now I'm working on the JT effect on the hydrate formation. So apart from my research, I enjoy the mountain biking. This is a photo taken in the Kalamanda in the plateau. So starting with some conclusion, so finally we got a new flow loop, which is like a Joule Thomson hydrate apparatus here. So with our setup, we can control the pressure drop and the valve opening and also water loading for the to mimic some like a different scenario. And also so commissioning work was done with the dry nitrogen and the methane and also like wet gas system as well. So we also like observe some like very severe hydrate blockage in the pipeline. And also in parallel, like we are working on the Olga modeling as well to compare our experimental result to the model prediction. So let's have a look what the Joule Thomson effect on the oil and gas production. So our group, we studied like hydrate formation and the wet formation for this the flow line system. So we have like a hydra loop, which is horizontal test section, and also high jump loop, which is vertical section. Now they are located in the oil field technology. So to expand our capability, now we're also focusing on some subsea uh, filtering section and then control valve and some vertical flow, which the pressure drop induce some like cooling in the flow line. And also this applies to some like a receiving facility. So it's also important for management, facility management case. And furthermore, this would be like could be like one interest, like a CO2 sequestration. So in this case, like when we inject CO2 in the underground, so with the JT cooling, the pores can be blocked. So this will kind of prevent some like CO2 storage in the ground. So the JT effect. So this is isentropic process, so which is like temperature change over the pressure drop. So in our case, we'll approximate this JT coefficient with the delta T over pressure drop. So briefly with the simple animation, we have the first stage of the gas, like T1, and with the expansion. So for example, of the methane and ethane mixture with the hydrate equilibrium curve, so the gas is sent from 1, and then after the isentropic process, it goes to in the hydrate stability zone. And also interestingly, the JT coefficient, which is the JT cooling behavior, is different depending on the gas species. So this is like when constant pressure and then range of temperature, and also constant temperature with the range of the pressure. So these two main things are our motivation to study JT effect in the flow line. So this is our actual setup, the JT hydrate practice. So we can test like a different gases, and also we can have like a very rigorous control of the feed gas pressure and the temperature, and also injecting water as well. And also we can change pressure drop using the regulator, a pressure regulator, and the back pressure regulator. And the valve, the expansion valve is directly communicate to the PC, so we can control the valve opening with the left loop. And also, like we can inject different rate of the water, changing initial water loading and then injection rate of the water. So also our capability, we have like a pressure and temperature sensor along this line. So we can monitor the pressure and temperature in the whole system. And we can also measure the recovered amount of water using this container. And also the beauty of this section, we have like a detachable downstream, so we can see what's happening in the pipeline with the like a post-experiment visual observation. So I'll show you more detail in the later section. So starting with the feed section. So this is the backside of our setup. So starting with the high pressure gases, so it goes through the pressure regulator. So in general, we play with about 120 bar with the feed gas, and then the gas goes to our high capacity circulation bath, which is like 60 liters, and then connected to high capacity the chiller, which controls the feed gas temperature. And in parallel, we have the syringe pump, which allows us to inject the water. And after the experiment, so I'll show you the expansion part later slide. And then we have, after the separation, the gas comes to our storage tank, which is 720 liters in total. And then, yeah, so recently we have a compressor. So we would like to recycle the gas for the experiment. So the low pressure gas from these storage cylinders, it goes to the moisture removal section, which we have like the two moisture traps in parallel, and then the gas goes to the compressor, and then we can reuse the gas for the next experiment. So now this is expansion section we are most interested in. So in this case, we have the feed gas valve here, which is here. So at the same time, we have the spray nozzle, so optimizing nozzle to make the water injection. And it goes to the upstream section, which we have like a pressure and warm pressure and the temperature sensor as well. And with the expansion valve, we control the valve opening. And with the expansion, we can study the JT cooling. So as I mentioned, there's like a detachable test section on the downstream, and then we have one pressure sensor here, and also 5 different temperature sensor at the different locations. So after expansion, we have here is the separator. So the water goes to the high pressure liquid container, so we can recover the water, and then the gas goes to the storage, as I showed you the previous one. And after experiment, we have the post-experiment visual observation, which allows us this oscilloscope see in the pipeline, so we can find the hydrate plugging or different sizes of the water droplet in a pipeline section. So now here is the valve control and data acquisition. So we can play with the kind of pressure regulator and then back pressure regulator to control the pressure drop and the valve opening and also water injection. So with the, actually, we try to kind of mimic our actual experimental system on the lab view. And then the good thing is we have the many pressure and the temperature sensor along this line. So this helps us to understand the physics behind the JT cooling. So the next section is our commissioning work and in parallel with the Olga modeling for JT cooling. So starting with the Olga simulation, so we have like two models. So I'll start with the flow model. So this is the way we try to map out our system, like a whole system, as best we could. So as I show you here, we have like a gas bottle, the bottle source is the same here in the Olga model. And the pressure regulator, it was kind of mimicked with the PID control in the Olga model. And with the bolus tank, B, and then there is a water injection, see here. So the system went through the upstream and the expansion valve and then the JT cooling. And also there's E, which is the back pressure regulator. So this is also controlled with the PID in the Olga model. And so this flow model to give us some understanding of the whole picture of our JT cooling effect. And now we also have a subsection, which I'll call it like the pressure and temperature boundary model. So with this model, we can start like a more simpler case, like we use exactly the same kind of dimension and location as a pressure and temperature sensor of the upstream, and also like a different location of like a temperature sensor on the downstream and the pressure as well. So with the boundary model, we can have more easier understanding to tune the heat transfer coefficient and also thermal mass in the pipeline. And also furthermore, for the thermodynamic lookup, we use the CPA equation of state using the multiflash for the prediction. So let's have a look at the very preliminary result with the dry nitrogen. So as I mentioned, starting with the boundary model and then experimental result. So the first, our challenge was to match the right number of the valve coefficient. So we started with the valve coefficient from the manufacturers. So it has like a huge deviation to the actually what happened in the system. So after tuning the valve coefficient, so the result, the solid line is experimental result, and then the dashed line is model. And what you can see, it is quite good agreement between the Olga model and the experimental result. And also like overall view of with the flow model. So I took all the kind of coefficient and then heat transfer coefficient things to the flow model. And with the same crack open cases, as you can find here, the upper one is the pressure profile, which is upstream and downstream. And also interestingly, with also this kind of flow model predict very well compared to our experimental results. Furthermore, we try the approximation of the Joule Thomson coefficient. So what we can find up to like 30 minutes, our Olga model, which is boundary model, and the flow model gives quite good agreement with our experimental results. And as you can see, the red line, which is the multi-flash prediction, it has like a big deviation in the first place. Because the multi-flash prediction using just the P2 and T3, probably this will be the source we have like a big deviation compared to the model. And in terms of our flow and the boundary model to experimental result, we can make this model prediction like get improved, kind of tuning more heat transfer coefficient and also thermal mass, like in the Joule Thomson system. So next, I tried some work for the water recovery. So here is the way, 2 photos. So I took the water, like after experiment, I took the water in the test section, and also like get the water collected in the high pressure liquid container as well. So this is a plot when we use the dry nitrogen and water system. So what you can see here, the actually recovered amount of water is about 10% less than the total water actually injected. So this could be from some remaining water contents in the kind of upstream section, and some of them in the very tiny droplet in the kind of detachable downstream section. So now let's have a look at the wet nitrogen system in the JT loop. So here's some kind of with the experiment, we have some scenario like using the initial loading case. And then after a certain amount of water, and then expand the system, and then we continue like injecting water using the atomizing nozzle. So with the Olga model, I follow the same system, but in this case, I schedule the water injection in second here. So matching the amount of initial water, and then expand the system, and then kind of continue the water injection. But the thing is, I stop the injection at the experiment endpoint as well to match the two systems from experiment and Olga model. So this is the prediction using the Olga flow model. So in this case, I try to focus on like the gas depletion. So the pressure profile here, what you can see like upstream and downstream, to matching the model to the experimental data. And yes, for the temperature prediction here, we have like some gap like after kind of 10 minutes. But here in our kind of preliminary work, my focus was on the very first like stages of the cooling, like a gradient of cooling and then the minimum temperature. And based on this model, I just compare our experimental result and the flow model and the multi-flash prediction. So still the multi-flash prediction gives the huge deviation from the experiment. And this gap on the temperature profile, this is the source of we have the deviation in the JT coefficient comparison. So as far as we use in this case, this is a wet system. So we need to kind of study further for the liquid holdup or water entrainment in the older model to better match the result to the experiment. So now, yeah, finally, with the hydrate result, our JT system. So I'll show you like two methane and water system for the different conditions. And here is the kind of pressure and the temperature profile, which is upstream and downstream. And this is a methane and water system. And what you can see, the downstream condition, like with the JT cooling, the system goes into the hydrate equilibrium curve. But at the end, there's no kind of hydrate blockage observed, like when you took, after experiment, when you took the detachable section. But actually, probably you will worry about how long does it take to take this detachable section. And I would say maybe within like 10 minutes. So now I'm quite familiar with this system. And but interestingly, so we also found some like observation very severe hydrate blockage. So interesting part of this one is the system looks quite fully blocked. And also when you see the timing, it only takes kind of 2 minutes, like since I opened the JT valve. So in this case, we found the upstream pressure and the downstream pressure is converged at a certain point, which indicates the plugging in the pipeline. So how this hydrate blockage occur very rapidly? So I want to find the reason from the aerosol, which is kind of interfacial area. This is kind of the flow regime from Tom, and then I'd like to focus on this entrained water droplet in a gas phase. And then when I apply this to our JT scenario, so with the atomizer and then with the expansion, we can have kind of gas entrained water droplet, the tiny droplet here, and then kind of it goes to like a hydrate shell, and then at the end it will make a deposition. Some of you, if you remember my acoustic levitator work, so in this case, I'm focusing on the very tiny water droplet, which is like a microliter of the one droplet. There's no kind of solid contact, and only have like a gas and water interface. So what happens in the system, like from the initial water droplet, it has kind of shell growth, and you can find some crumbles and like a minor roughness change, and as this goes like bigger and bigger, and make a popcorn hydrate like this. So my question is, does the interfacial area or scale of the system affect on the hydrate formation? Yeah, so I got the 3 data sets from the levitated droplet here. And then I compare this data set to like more like a bigger scales, like for example, like stirred reactor from like other studies. So the interfacial area is like about like 200 times higher with this system. So the thing is, when you just see absolute nucleation rate, so our levitated droplet result cannot follow the trend. But when I normalize the nucleation rate to the interfacial area, they are aligned quite well. So probably this means maybe the interfacial area could be dominating for the nucleation rate. This could be kind of some kind of combined like effect, but so in this case, so I assume like we injected like 500 milliliter of water in the JT loop, and then I compare like the area of the bulk water and to the aerosol at the same amount, but our nozzle gives like a 10 to like 100 microns of the water droplet. So at the end, the interfacial area is like four order of magnitude higher. So for example, when you consider this interfacial area of this tiny water droplets, so like 1, 2, 3, 4, something like this, so the nucleation rate will kind of quite jump up like this. So this could be the one of the reasons we went through the rapid hydrate blockage in the system. So as a way forward, I showed like a different gases feature, like different JT cooling behavior. So we can try some like a gas mixture such as methane and ethane mixture. And also potentially we can try the MEG and KHI in the system for like additive testing. And at the same time, I'm trying to working on the hydrate formation modeling with Olga. So this could help to understand the physics behind the JT cooling in this JT expansion loop system. Because we found some interesting like a secondary choke with this from the temperature profile here. So back to conclusion, finally we built the new flowloop, which is Joule Thomson hydrate apparatus. So with this apparatus, we control the pressure drop, valve opening, and water loading for testing some different scenario. And also we did some commissioning work with the nitrogen and methane. And in the future, we can try some other gas mixture, methane, ethane, or some like CO2 to reach the hydrocarbon system. And also, in parallel, we are trying to build a very solid Olga model to compare our experiment to the Olga model's predictions. That's all. So before I finish my presentation, I would like to acknowledge Arman, who's initially was building up this JT system, and Bruce, and then my supervisor, Zach. Thank you.